Hi, welcome for today. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our flight in the universe of a pretty ancient civilization, and it has a continuation and have some sort of conversion transformation that nowadays we are reading, at least me as someone from mainland China, using simplified Chinese. But now in this episode in One Word a Day, I'm looking back on through time of the original, at least some point of time, like an ancient, more ancient way of representing certain concept. Yesterday we talked about 无为而治, of the way of governing is to make little, like close to none, that kind of wu effort to it, like minimize your government intervention. So today we have two separate concepts that I put side by side because it's good to distinguish between them and they share the same character. 礼, we have 治理 and 管理. 治理 talks about come from this water sign of either it's waterway management, as I said in last episode, that comes from this block image, and this in contemporary is a triangular image, but in the past it's a kind of a spoon ladle looking thing, that water as irrigation for farming is extremely important, right? So water management was critical to run a country. And that's a project beyond the local community level. Probably it's upstream, downstream, or middle stream, several villages or regions, or like even wider piece of land involved. So that's a pooled resource to build a waterway that's beneficial to the land in general, right? So that's kind of water management. And it came from like two ways of interpreting it. One is the mouse with a ladle to feed, because it's a ladle, right? So that implies it's a soup. So feed the soup to the mouse. It's from the water next to it. So water as a nutrition factor to humans to drink. So that's one side of the water. The other one is water as a irrigation for the farming activity, that we want to contain water to make sure the banks don't overflow. So this image of kind of a stacking up of materials next to the bank so that it's high enough to go beyond its usual high water mark of like seasonal change, right? It's kind of changing like that. And then the high mark probably stand over there, and then you make sure you stack high enough beyond the highest watermark. So think the rivers when in the rainy season doesn't overflow. So water management was and still today is important government function, which to provide good resources, to manage these natural resources to the benefit of a bigger piece of land. And water management also is a way of rule, of control the population, because you control the water source. That's critical. So from that meaning of water management, it generalized into management or governing of people in general. Okay, 礼 we have both 治理 and 管理, both come from this 礼. Okay, it has the left and right. The left is like a jade sign. So jade was a valued precious stone, I guess, or semi-precious stone in China. It's probably more available. Well, I don't exactly know, but ancient times, trade was commonly, jade was commonly seen in the language in this formation of these are the jade discs on a string. So this is a kind of a unit, or jade storage as a unit, kind of like a stack of money of US dollars. Now it's paper, right? In the past, jade was used as currency, as at least something like a gold, I guess, to preserve value of things. And so you have a string of jade in the uniform, and that worth some kind of fortune, right? And that's the image we use here to call back of the ancient times of jade trade as a currency. And jade, of course, is personal adornment as well. So we have many carved jade decorations. So jade, and then we have this, I guess it's a kind of a tool to process jade. Okay, the contemporary Chinese have this called li, and li is kind of a border of a farmland or villages. The reason why is because it has the soil symbol right stacked up with the field symbol. So if you see this kind of almost like a circular shape, it's not exactly circular, because if it's circular, it becomes the cartwheel and the spokes. So here is a little bit rectangular, but the bottom rounded off. So it implies the farmland. Now, so in the past, the Chinese farming society, the management of a society is to divide the farmland from bigger pieces to smaller pieces, and to distribute that to different families. So that farmland distribution was kind of this grid lines. So it's supposed to be kind of even cut, right, between families. So that becomes the field symbol. So it's like a piece of land with smaller cut in between. It's run, operated, or farmed, cared for by different family, different economic units, right? So that's the field. So we have field stacked up with the soil symbol. The soil, because this is the ground, and this is something living thing through the ground or in the ground, growing under and above the ground. And then the pointer is at the very end of that growing plant. That's the soil we're talking about. Or that's the location we're talking about, the material at the very end of the root of a plant. So soil and field, that becomes the unit of measurement of a farming population. Almost like you have the land, basically, and then you have the farm field, and that defines this region as some sort of economic unit, right? As a population, because this is their major economic activity back then. So this was used as the symbol to mean this is things are almost like, in today we're talking about city planning, but this is like farm field planning. It's beyond the city scope. It's the farm field, how to distribute that resources among the population. So that in itself already implies a sort of management, a sort of resource distribution, right? And that separation of economic units, so on whatever scale, right? You have different kingdoms, right? Beyond the kingdoms, you're probably different counties, minor, smaller, middle range kingdoms, and then smaller ones, villages, and then under this village, different households, right? So it has all the ways to cut down to different sizes of pieces of land, and then considering in different scales of units of measurement. So that borderline land, the farm field and the soil, that natural resource distribution, that cutting next to the jade, now almost like in contemporary Chinese, we translate as li, almost like a reasoning. So this is about trade, and this is about land distribution. So not city planning, but farmland planning, almost, right? And another way to look at it is the jade got a certain kind of streaks or lines or patterns shown on the natural stone, and when it's polished or cut from a certain angle, you're going to see the streaks or the jade display a certain texture on the surface. So the lines on the jade are going to form a certain pattern. And that certain pattern, along with the borderline of the farm field cutting, so it involves a certain cutting and processing, that both of the symbols eventually extracted into putting order in things. So when we talk about putting things into order, we also have this sense of putting things in border. So we have to be able to border things first, to put something in a box, to kind of draw the borderline between different units of economic units, right? We have to be able to sort that one out. And then things are going to be orderly. Almost like you can correctly classify or distribute this is piece of land, or to show like in jade as a currency or as a decoration, to showing the borders, the streaks on the jade that implying the borders. So all that come to the meaning of order, like you kind of sort out things. Before the sorting out, it was disorder, right? So it probably was more of a jungle world, that whoever is more muscular or has more population in a family household or tribe or whatever, they are going to battle out the other ones and take more resources, right? And this li is more about putting things in order. Each one have relatively equal distribution of the land masses. So you live within your box. It's kind of I guess it's kind of population based. So however big size of your family household, you're going to have a piece of land like that. So nobody need to go at war with other people, because now we each have this piece of land. Things are put in order. So that's a kind of order, long-winded. And I don't even know if that's the right way of the logic of the language creators to put the two symbols together. Actually, three symbols: the farm field, the soil symbol, and the jade on the string. Okay, but that's the order. And guan, we have the bamboo symbol. So bamboo always come like two of them paired together on the top to show that's the material of this thing. And the thing, well, this is the sound of the thing. This is guan, that means government. So government have this dome arch thing with a chimney on the top, that kind of like a housing structure. And then inside it has this almost like a cliff looking thing with two boxes stacking up. So on some context, the visual icon here means cliff, like a high rise up structure naturally occurred. It's not a mountain or elevation that you can easily go up with, because it's a steep rise and forms kind of like a natural borderline of things, right? So I guess over here, this arch with a chimney means a kind of a architecture, humanly built structure to cover this borderline. So we can regard that as a borderline, or we can regard the mouth there as the population. And population, they are kind of stacking up or on the same string. So it's almost like a jade beads on the same string. So it's like population are kind of put in order as well. So this arch is the governing architecture. So that's an architecture built on top of the local population. The mouse means individual head counts. We use mouse count, right? So this different mouses put in order, stacking up, like already sorted out, because I guess in ancient times, they got registration as well, like who owns which piece of land also got registered. So that population was kind of under the book of that local governancy, which represented by this arch. So that eventually becomes the local government or government officials who serves as the judge and the administrator, the policy. Probably they're not a policymaker because it was a central government. So the highest level make the decision and pass down to local level, and local level just execute orders of the, I mean, at least that's my understanding. It's more top down. And so that's the order execution agency to carry out the national policy back then. So that's the guan, and this was used as the sound maker. I tried to explain, okay, I mean, the whole thing eventually means a type of instrument, and the instrument eventually means a type of control. There are several logic jumps there. Like, why this bamboo symbol next to this government or government official governing, why they are together means an instrument. Like, besides it's a sound maker, it sounds like a guan, and now it's a guan. Besides the sound maker, could there be any logic meaning why government official and this windpipe type of instrument, imagine a flute, okay? So could there be a logic connection there? Like, why governance related to this type of music instrument? I mean, one possibility is that type of instruments only can be heard or used or performed sponsored by the government. So it's a kind of a government sponsor music activity used instrument. That's one possibility. And the other one is this type of instrument is kind of like a flute, right? So it's a kind of tubular shape with holes for you to hold your fingers on. And according to scholars, this guan originally means this flute with 6 holes on it. And we know Chinese, what do you call it? The music tonation, 宫商角徵羽 do re mi sol la C D E F. Wait, do C D E. There's no F, but G and E. So only 5 tones. So pentatonic. Okay, that's the word. Pentatonic tonation of Chinese music. And so we have six holes on the flute, probably besides the 5-tone pentatonic. The 6th hole is used to air control the pitch variation, something like that. So it used to be this flute-like ancient music instrument. And okay, so from bamboo, government bamboo, okay? So if we read things literally, government bamboo, then somehow becomes this instrument, this flute looking thing. And then this music making thing eventually becomes control. And that logic kind of jumped back to government. So instead of a government bamboo, to mean it's an instrument with 6 holes on it, it eventually loses the music part, the bamboo part. It becomes the government itself. So get back to this control, get back to this sound maker, which is guan, which is government. So there we go. So we have this governing order and governing order. So what's the difference between 治理 and 管理? That's my question as well. So I translate it as govern versus manage, because 管理 in contemporary Chinese lingo, we use 管理 as simply as management, as manage. Just like in company, we have management. So things put in order and you have a certain control over it, right? You control orderly things, or you control so that things are in order. So that's 管理. And 治理, it has water management. So it's a bigger project and probably involves multiple generation efforts, consistent investment of resources, limited resource always, right? So how you direct your resource to benefit to max out the benefit to majority of the people. or however the governing policy back then. So that's a higher level of management. So in this picture, somebody tried to distinguish what is 管理, what is 治理. And there's a whole, I don't know who came up with this pyramid looking thing. It became the staple, the stock figure in sociology, right? We always have this pyramid looking thing. Okay, so this middle part, the gray color one, corresponding to 管理, which here it says 执行流程. It's the execution part. So you just almost like a bookkeeping, right? You need to count how much money you have and how to budget, how to assign your resources and make sure things are carried out. So it's an execution level. It's like a broken down steps of how to make things happen from day-to-day level. Versus 治理 has all the way from the micro procedures to execution level to milestones or scenarios. So it's like a bigger, longer term or bigger scale. And then on the tip of this pyramid is strategy. So when things are going to the strategic level, that's a longer vision and the bigger money involvement, a lot of coordinations of different parts of the country. And then here we're just 治理, talking about, if you come back to the origin of the word, which is about waterway management, and that's the level I think is appropriate to define what is 治理. It's almost like managing the waterways of the country. It's an essential national natural resources that can only be managed on the national level. Like for whole villagers to devote to probably build up the dams next to their village is possible, but eventually it's a waterway that has upper stream, middle stream, downstream, like many villages and towns, different regions living. Their livelihood depends on this water and how to make sure that water don't overflow, don't flood your farmland. That's a critical function of the government. So that's something only at a national level back then, like beyond the tribal, smaller regional level. It's more national level of interest to pool resources to build a long-sustaining waterway system. So that, like on a strategic level, how to allocate your resources, that becomes the concept of 治理. Okay, there we go. 治理 and 管理. Cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.